In the previous module on cloud computing security strengths, we looked at VNet on demand. So how you can create a logical virtual network just simply by going through the cloud provider's portal and literally setting it up on demand. Now that's a great strength of the cloud, security-wise, the ability just to create these logically isolated networks. But what we want to do now is when we're connecting to that network, to do so in the most secure fashion possible. And to do that, I'd like to have a VPN between my on-premise environment and my cloud environment. The value of the VPN is it's going to give us an encrypted tunnel between those 2 points. So even if we're using a service which doesn't natively encrypt on the transport layer, so let's say we're just doing plain text FTP, by routing through a VPN tunnel, we now start to get encryption across that connection. It would still be advisable in a case like FTP to use secure FTP. There are some other risks that still persist. But the premise of someone getting in the middle of the traffic, somewhere between your premise and the cloud environment, now becomes a non-event. Let's have a look at how this works. I'm going to jump up to New, down to Networking, and earlier on I drilled down into the virtual network option here. This was where we could create the VNet. Instead though, when we're talking about VPN, I'm going to get down to the virtual network gateway option. And this allows us to connect our VNet, the one I talked about in the previous module, with our local network. Now it's quite easy to set up within the Azure portal. I've found there's usually a little bit more configuration involved on the other end, so on your on-premise end. But the point I wanted to make here is that there is an easy self-service on-demand mechanism on the cloud side of the service for setting up a virtual private network. Do this if you're going to be having communications between your on-site premise and a VNet, because it's going to give all of those connections and the communications that you have between those two environments that extra level of security. And again, this is something which won't be configured out of the box. You have to go in and set this up, but it's there if you choose to use it. So that's one way that we can further secure the transport layer. Let's go and have a look at something quite different, and that's identifying SQL injection attacks.